Hello, my name is Daniel Marino, and this is Karate Thoughts. So, I have been a karate practitioner since I was a child. I've also been a karate teacher for my entire adult life, and this is just a weekly series that I do where I take questions in the comment section and I answer them in each week's video. So, last week's video, we got some interesting comments, but none of them really had any questions I think would make a good video for this week. But I made a post in the community section of this YouTube channel where I got a comment from a user named Bentinoho just asking for me to make a video kind of elaborating on my thoughts a little bit. So that's what I'm going to do here. So the post went, "It's kind of funny how karate, as a modern martial art, really started being taught to children in the Okinawan school system. Fast forward more than 100 years, and people wonder why it's mostly kids that are interested in karate. The conventional training methodology is geared towards them. Curriculum based on memorization, a belt system to track progress, an emphasis on discipline and personal growth over functional fighting ability. If we want to better serve the adults in karate and attract new people of this age group to the art, we should question these practices and offer alternatives." So that was the post. And, the user just asked me to kind of elaborate on my thoughts here, and I'm not sure exactly what he means by that. I'm kind of assuming he means the second half of this post where I'm talking about things about the conventional karate training methodology that are geared toward kids. For more information, the last week's video I talked a bit about the history here. This post was kind of a continuation of my thoughts on that, so please go check out that video if you want me to hear me talk a little bit more about the historical foundations of the art and the Okinawan school system. But yeah, so let's get into it. So I mentioned three things here: a curriculum based on memorization, belt system, and an emphasis on discipline and personal growth over functional fighting ability. Now, of those three, the last one is really the one that I think is the most important and the one that needs to change. It related to it also is a curriculum based on memorization in terms of a belt system to track progress. I mean, I do think that that's the kind of thing that maybe appeals a little bit more to children than it does to adults, but you certainly can have a belt system for adults as well. There's nothing wrong with that. The memorization thing is a big one for me because it's pretty common in karate where, you're graded in large part often based on the forms that you've memorized and the compliant drills that you've memorized, and maybe there are some other, maybe sparring is included in there somewhere, or other tests like board breaking are included in there somewhere. But generally, the majority of the curriculum is very much based on memorization of doing these moves the right way in the right order. And when I'm talking about, there are benefits to that, of course. I think especially for kids, if I just want, because I teach children, and if I just want them to learn some self-control and some body awareness and some ability to, overcome obstacles and reach their goals, it's like you can certainly do that by just teaching them a bunch of forms or teaching them a bunch of compliant drills. But if you want to teach somebody, like, you want to give somebody ability to really fight and defend themselves, I think that the emphasis really should not be on memorization, but it should be on sparring, and it should be on performance in sparring and competition. So I've cross-trained in some other martial arts. I've done a little bit of boxing. I've done a little bit of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I think that the clearest difference that you can identify between conventional training in traditional martial arts versus like modern combat sports is this emphasis on sparring and competition rather than just arbitrary standards that have to do with the quality of the way that you perform a technique in the air. Adults benefit from discipline, and adults are looking for personal growth too, and you can get those things from martial arts for sure, but it's not really what the main focus of the practice is supposed to be. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do to develop your discipline and to grow as a person. It's not unique to martial arts. I mean, you can do any kind of athletic pursuit. You could do that with weightlifting. You could do that with long distance running. I mean, you could do that with a lot of different things. The unique thing that martial arts are supposed to offer us is fighting ability, is the ability to fight and defend yourself. And for adults to be more interested in the art, I really think there needs to be a clear emphasis on that. I am very fortunate in that I do come from a karate community where sparring was always a normal part of what we did, and competition too. There were even local competitions that my organization would put on and still puts on today. Now I bring my students to them, but I used to compete in them myself when I was younger. I think that really is the number one thing that determines whether or not the group or the approach that you have is good, is whether or not there is a focus on sparring and competition. What I would say though is that it's pretty normal in karate, even when you have good groups that have a focus on sparring and competition, that sparring and competition often is very limited. Like, you're only really sparring and competing with a small number of techniques, like just punches and kicks, and then everything else, throws, joint locks, a lot of other strikes, like things like elbow strikes, knee strikes. Though, like, you have a large number of things that are not used in sparring, that are not allowed in competition, but are found in the compliant drills, or found maybe in the traditional forms, kata, hyung, whatever term you use for them. So, to say how I think we can better serve the adults in karate and attract new people of that age group to the art, I really just think that we need to expand our sparring and even our competition to include, all of the things that are a part of karate, right? And to include different, and it's a large part of what I share on this YouTube channel. I share a lot of clinch sparring, and I develop that clinch sparring, and I developed the ability to do it myself and to teach it to my students, for this reason, so that it would give us a way to practice things like elbow strikes and knee strikes and takedowns, against resistance with each other. So that's just all that I'm really saying there, that I think that, it's not that belt systems are necessarily a problem. I just think that the typical way that karate is practiced, where you get your different ranks based on your ability to perform these set sequences of movements or these compliant drills with a partner, I think that that's really what is not appealing to adults as much today. I think if we look at combat sports that are very popular with adults, you have a much greater emphasis on how these things are actually used. And, not for nothing, but there's nothing wrong with there being martial arts that appeal to kids. There's nothing wrong with having a teaching methodology that's really geared towards that. It really is geared just on giving young people the ability to develop some athleticism, to develop some discipline, develop their character. But I think to bring adults back into karate and make it a more popular martial art for them, I think we need to kind of take a page out of the book of what we see in modern combat sports, that how they don't have a problem getting adults, because it's a lot more, the training is a lot more directly applicable, and there's a lot more continuity. The things that you're learning are the things that you are doing in sparring, and there are the things that you are doing if you choose to compete. So I would love to see karate kind of expand I would love to see people in karate start to expand the way that they spar, to include more grappling in their sparring, so that we can practice the things that are found in our traditional forms, that are found in our compliant drills, And then I would love for there to be, you know, more styles of competition too, where we can, you know, get together as a community and we can test each other in that way. You know, I know there are a lot of people out there that might say like, yeah, man, but you're just describing MMA, and fair enough. You know, there is truth to that. You know, maybe karate people should just become more involved in MMA. And I would not disagree with that at all. But I also think maybe there's a place for people to, in the karate community, to create, you know, karate specific competitions that are a little bit more well-rounded, that include a lot more, you know, rather than the kind of the typical karate point fighting that I grew up doing and that I still, you know, teach today and my students still compete in. You know, the way that I teach is that, and all my students, even the young kids, you know, I incorporate some clinch sparring into what we do at all levels. It's something we do a lot. It's a much bigger part of the class for the teens and adults, but I do it with the younger kids as well. But there isn't really a way for us to compete with that stuff. You know, the style of competition that we still do is just point fighting. And I'd love to see that change at some point in the future. But anyway, that's my thoughts on it. Thank you very much for listening. If you guys have any questions, please leave them in the comment section of this video. I'd be happy to answer it next week. Thank you.